It's the last day here at South by Southwest Interactive. I'm James True.
And I'm Carrie Davis, and we have seen lots of interesting experimental things here.
Right, I think that's the big deal with South by Southwest. We're used to seeing products and such sort of stuff at MWC and CES where it's all TVs and phones, but here, none of that. It's much more about like the big idea and what's possible and what sort of thing can we expect to see, maybe not in the near future, but the far future.
What's been interesting is how much R&D tech we've seen here. So Sony, for example, just brought their R&D game here to South by and let us sort of try out things that we didn't even know they were working on. Mm-hmm. So they had something called the Arc, which is a necklace that was created this surround sound musical experience that had 4 speakers in it, and you could talk to it. Listen up, Arc.
And what did it do when you talked to it?
You could ask it the weather. They had a partnership with Yelp. It's a prototype so far, but ask it about restaurants near you. And then there was a camera.
Because that isn't awkward enough that you're talking to your necklace.
Yeah, it's normal.
Right, but the camera
normal.
was kind of this weird robotic eye. I saw it kind of rotates around and sort of opens up at you like this.
Since Google Glass never really took off, right? People weren't comfortable with the wearable right on the face, maybe the neck. Right next to that was a projector where the sound actually came from the image on the wall.
But when you say from the image, how does that even work?
Along with the image, they would project the sound at it and it would bounce down. And so the closer you were to the image, the better you could hear.
So like a directional sound.
Exactly
sort of
right.
Sony wasn't the only big brand here. Sampson was here as well. They had a pair of VR headphones. We're used to seeing their Samsung Gear VR. We're all familiar, put it on, look like an idiot and look around. But then they got a kind of pair of headphones that are meant to sort of enhance this experience. They had these, I'm going to try and get it right this time, galvanic vestibular stimulation.
For the win.
Yep. And basically what it does is it sends signals or sort of a small pulse through to the...
It sounds like a shot collar.
I think that's version 2. And what it does is, so the idea is you put this on, and the demo they gave was a racing game, and they put this VR headset on Nate, and he had a look around this driving game, and he was saying that when they send the pulses, you can actually feel like the car is steering you along in the same direction that it's going.
So that's the great thing, is that we get to see what will probably be on the market in a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
To kick off the whole thing, of course, was President Obama. And I know that seems like a lifetime ago now, but it was day one, and it was a big deal the day it happened. His big message was that he wanted tech people to make things that benefited more of the average person and not just sort of maybe the more entitled people. There is a place that we got to visit here in Austin because they're based here, Chaotic Moon, and we got to see things so experimental. Some of them have only been a real project for a week.
I described it as like a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with a power cord.
So they had a VR game where you could sort of steer and fight a dragon that Mallory got to test out. Then another thing where you would put electrodes on your neck and then think of a word you wanted to say as hard as you could. And the idea is that it could capture the electrical signals in your brain and sort of be able to recognize that word or that thought.
Right, so the technology is actually called subfocalization, they tell me. It's something that NASA was working on as long as 10 years ago. So it's a real thing. It's not just a hokum that they've made up. The brain sends a signal to the larynx, and they're trying to intercept that signal, kind of read it, and they're using the same couple of words so that they can develop like a sample base. And the idea being that they would be able to remove all the signals that your heart makes and all those sort of things, and then find the sort of digital fingerprint, I suppose, of certain words. And then in the long-term future, you can maybe use it for tools for helping people that can't speak and any such thing like this.
That isn't just made up, because we went to the IBM booth and they were moving around a BB-8 with a mind control device. So just like steering something, thinking really hard which direction you want to go. So that's the future.
Do you know how well that worked? Because it doesn't sound like it's going to work very well.
Well, they said it didn't work well because of Wi-Fi interference with all the people there, and then we wanted to go back and test it and they canceled.
Come on, this is the future. We can't have Wi-Fi interference in the future.
One of the big stories before we even got here was that South by Southwest originally had an online harassment panel and then canceled it when there were some threats as a result of deciding to have that panel.
Bad move.
Yeah.
South by Southwest reinstated the panel, and then not only that, they actually had a whole day of panels about this topic.
The only bummer to see is that then in the comments and articles, and don't feed the trolls. However, some of the comments were...
Not cool, not fun.
You tell them.
Told. No one wants to talk about what happens when you die, but that did happen here for a good reason. Facebook is here to discuss the sort of prickly subject of what to do with your sort of online legacy, I suppose is the best way to describe it. So they've had a tool for about a year where you can nominate a friend or family member that's going to look after your Facebook account should you pass away.
So because I'm in tech news, I signed somebody up immediately. My best friend has it. But
Right, but they were saying that the challenge they're having is that people aren't signing up for it or they aren't managing it.
same with iTunes. I've heard the same argument over music.
Who gets your iTunes library?
That's right. Spent a lot of money on that music.
I don't want your iTunes library.
Well, somebody might. It's a lot of country music. Final thoughts, James?
Big thing with South by Southwest is kind of how overwhelming it is.
And that's what makes it so fun to cover, is that you're kind of outside in the heat, in pedicabs, walking, sort of getting to see downtown, which is really kind of a beautiful, cool, funky place.
I think time is the one thing that we can't buy, but that's the one thing you need a lot more of.
Yeah, time turners for everybody. Get on it, Dumbledore. So back to Chaotic Moon. They were so cool that they let us have a virtual dance party.
A Doppeldancer, the product was called, I think. But they took like a 3D scan of us. They kind of link up all the joints. They've pre-programmed in some pretty sweet dance moves.
So we're going to send you out on us dancing on Barton Springs, another rad Austin spot. I don't know if you're as good in person as your doppeldancer is.
Pretty sure I'm better.
Let me see. All right, maybe.
Pop it on the floor and then you bring it right back. Pop it on the floor and then you bring it right back. Go and pop it on the floor. Go and pop it on the floor.
Because I love it when you move that dance. Show them where they do that at.
Pop it on the floor and then you bring it right back.